All right, peace and blessings, assalamu alaikum, shalom. Welcome to the Doc and the Radical program. And peace and blessings, Doc, come on in and introduce yourself.
Dr. James Thomas Jones III, history, African American studies professor, Catherine Viola Jones's baby boy, my highest title of all time. Just your average brother, working class brother, raised up by a steel worker and a data entry clerk. Trying to, as Shock G put it, I'm trying to stay normal and love being here, love interacting with my brother, and looking forward to interacting with the audience more and more as we build this audience.
Most definitely, most definitely. And Jamira told me to tell you hi.
Oh, tell us what up. What up? Oh, I ain't all bad.
Definitely. Well, Doc, today our program, we're going to be dealing with, of course, from a Black man's perspective, should we trust white folks? Are they worthy allies? And we're going to be looking at a church group called One Nation.
Okay.
We're going to go through that. We're going to deal with that. And then we also, I want to go to the blog that you wrote dealing with Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow said something about white people should help Black people or something to that effect. Okay. We want to deal with that. So let's just jump right in that. So we're in of course, a modern context. We're not the way we were when we first got here or even after slavery. But in your understanding, our overall condition, how would you put it?
How would I put our overall condition?
Yes.
I would first start off by referring to us as divided, and really having to ask myself, is there really one Black America? Or are we looking at a situation where there are many Black Americas where people are having to kind of stretch and fit themselves into it? And many times, to be honest with you, I don't think that we're even anymore trying to fit within the same umbrella. I believe that one could make a very significant argument that right now, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I believe that when I say right now, I'm talking about maybe from 1970 to the present moment, because it doesn't seem as if we're synced up, that we can use modern day language with one another. And for so many of us, I think that the ultimate goal is to survive. As Malcolm would put it, by any means necessary. But in talking about surviving by any means necessary for a relatively marginalized people, marginalized politically, economically, and of course that marginalization is exacerbated by the fact that we are, for all intents and purposes, disorganized. I believe that the latest figure to come out was that our dollar circulates within our community a robust 6 hours. And it isn't that we don't have money. It's that it's just been kind of taken from us and or given away. I would rather say it that way. But we're largely, just being honest, we're largely being looked at as a populace that has been kind of mashed together right now because of our skin tone. And So as a result of that, we're struggling. So I doubt that there is a us.
So, Doc, let me ask you this. Can you, when you say that we are marginalized people, can you just break that down in layman terms? Because I want our people to get very crystal clear in what we're saying and what needs to go, what needs to happen.
That we're marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is that when you really look at it, and I'm sure that there are some people who would push back against this and say, well, it's not that Black people don't have power. I call us a relatively powerless people. And the reason that my definition of power, let me talk about my definition of power first. Power is the ability to make something behave and act in a way that it's not in its best interest. I know that you've been in had dealings with DC, and I know Philly now. But if you can think back to the 1980s, John Riggins and the Hogs, okay, who I think I may hate the Redskins more than the Eagles as a Cowboys fan. But John Riggins and the Hogs, we knew that when they lined up, number one, John Riggins wasn't fast. John Riggins is like a bowling ball, okay? And he's coming, and they're coming. So Randy White, Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, y'all better be ready, because they're going to use a power running game. They're going to make us move. I don't believe that Black folk have the ability to make white America move. Not even on an inconsistent basis. You can't, you're not even, unless you're organized, you're not even able to issue a threat. You're pleading with the good feelings of folk to have mercy upon you, because you're still economically marginalized. And that's a problem. So when I say that we're marginalized, I mean quite simply that there is a level of trouble, and history bears this out for us almost on a daily basis. We can look at Kanye, we can look at Kyrie, we can look at whoever you want to point to. We can look at this young brother who was just shot for knocking on the wrong door. There's a level of trouble that Black folk can get in, that there is no Black person who can aid them and get them out of. I'm not sure if that's true for white America, because they have a infrastructure built that allows for them to make some moves almost naturally from a position of survival. Look at what's happening with, and definitely have to let the people know who they're dealing with Brother Maurice's president, his former president, who's caught up in all this legal trouble right now. Never have we seen a DA, they transformed Congress into hearings about this brother. How wrong he is, and that's power. So when I talk about those types of things, there are moments and there are times when you're Black in America, and I don't care if you're going down to the Child Protective Services office, the Public Assistance office, you're going to the local university, law school, the hospital, the doctor. You can't make that system behave to your benefit unless there's a sympathetic person in there. And I don't think other people have to deal with that, especially not people who are not similarly poor as Black. So that's what I mean when I say that.
Okay, okay. And the thing that has us, or I would say the divide that you talk about, and that there's many sides of Black America, or many different little groupings of Black America. At the root cause of the division, I would say it's the crackers' fault, the root cause of the division. Or what would you say the fault of that is?
You would call it, you say it's the root cause, that white folk are the root cause of Black suffering?
Suffering, division?
I would be hard pressed to lay it solely upon white folk, because I believe that the thing that is making them behave the way that they behave is this as the Panthers would refer to it as this greedy, avaricious capitalist system that's built upon the idea of we're going to exploit someone. Someone's going to get exploited. Somebody's going to get worked to death. Now, the question that you're going to have to deal with is a very simple one. And that question is quite simply, is it going to be you, or is it going to be some working stiff? And there really isn't an option or an opportunity for you to kind of say, no, I don't want to exploit others. I want everyone to be taken care of. Well, that's very fine if you're trying to get into heaven, but you're living within the capitalist system, which demands that people are exploited. You need to have resources to make it within a capitalist system. It's just what it is. And so now the question becomes, and this is why I hesitate to put, especially at the human level, to put it at the feet solely of white folk. Because this capitalist system teaches anyone who doesn't want to be on the verge of homelessness, poverty, the position, the poor and working class position that our people have had to live under for so long. If you can't beat them, join them. And that's how you ultimately end up with a lot of people who are, as some people erroneously refer to them as Uncle Toms, which is the improper term. I mean, Uncle Tom was actually a hero who died for his family, but Sambos and things like that, people who, step and fetch it, people who will do whatever they have to do to extract a dollar from not only white folk, but from the capitalist system. That is problematic. And that's capitalism. And one of the reasons why, and if you go back and you look at the Black Panther Party, one of the reasons the Panthers were, why the FBI and local and state police had so many people like William O'Neill, who were willing to, as we would look at it, betray the Panthers, is due to they're coming from what could best be termed, Lynn Toler, former divorce court judge, refers to our community as a disassembled community. And these people are representative of a disassembled community. They're trying to survive. So when you get a figure like O'Neill, when you get somebody that's who have a problem that Black America can't help them get out of. And let's focus on O'Neill so it's not completely abstract. William O'Neill, the brother who sold out Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. We often talk about Hampton, and many times we forget about Clark. But he had been picked up on, of all things, a joyriding charge. He had stolen a car, got caught joyriding, and had went across state lines, which turned it into a federal crime. O'Neill doesn't want to go to prison. And O'Neal, once again, within our community, we don't have anybody that could reach in there as your illustrious former president is doing and can do his bidding and make it to Congress, make it to whoever, and be decisive in being able to make this problem go away. So now he got to make a deal with the devil. He got to make a Faustian deal. And the cost of O'Neal getting out of that trouble immediately for him was the life of co-chairman Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. Okay. So we are a people who, in the Panthers, they're one of the things that Karl Marx talked about often was that one should not build their party or their movement on people who are in constant contact with the police. Or who are economically marginalized. You have to think that there are some places, like jewelry stores, will not hire you if you're in debt and you have a poor credit rating, because the opportunity to steal is going to be almost, irresistible, because you can make these problems. These people ain't gonna be calling you on your phone and sending you these angry messages if you just steal this.
Exactly.
It's kind of the same thing. We live within a capitalist nation. And when your people are as poor as our people are and are exposed as our people are, they are subject to have their credibility and their morality chipped away. And that's a problem. That's a major problem.
And so because I always explain to people, when we're talking about capitalism, we're talking about communism, all of these ideologies, these systems that are made, they come out the minds of men, like the spider web come out the being of a spider. So it starts in somebody's mind. And since we're not the father of capitalism, the cracker is. We're not the father of communism, the cracker is. We're not the father of none of these systems.
I laugh, not to cut you off, I laugh when you say that, because Karl Marx, the father of communism, Karl Marx said this. He said, "I may not know a lot, but one thing I do know is that I am not a Marxist." And that was his way of saying that what I was talking about has been taken and split and transformed into something that I didn't even mean, to have occurred. But
now that's very interesting. That's very interesting. And so it's like with O'Neal, who you were talking about, and he had a choice. He had a choice to either do the time or cooperate. And, I don't think that he knew in the beginning, when the cracker reached out to him, that the end result would be Fred Hampton losing his life. I don't think he knew that from at the beginning of it, but he knew it down the road. And he had the chance to say, I'm not going to do that. That's just the wrong thing for me to do. I'm not going to do that. But it's something to do with the.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay,
I don't agree with that.
How you see it?
I think that at the core and the being of, and once again, I'm not sold that we are a one people. I'm still not sold on that idea. But I think that the combination of being ripped away from what you love, your selfishness of what you love, and the legitimated fear of white folk being able to make you go away forever. There is no choice there. His choice began when he stole that car. Once white folk got their hands on him, he didn't have no choice. Okay, and now we do have a cadre of individuals, and I guess you can tip your hat to them, who will do the time, who will say, no, I'm no rat, I'm no snitch, I'm gonna just do the time. Yeah, we do have some who do that, but they're rare. You look at what's his name, Young Thug, YSL, the brothers down in Atlanta, who got in trouble. Oh yeah, when they put you in that box and they ain't playing, some of y'all gonna fold. And those who do not fold are going to receive the full brunt of what they can do. So I don't know. I think that growing up Black in America and seeing on a repeated basis the absolute power, not always terror-filled power, but the absolute power that living in a white man's world, in a white man's system, there's some compromises that some people are gonna have to make, especially if they have some missteps. My father, this was my father's saying to me, and he'll never see this because my dad me and my dad are not close. Let me say that. Okay. My sister, my dad is older. My sister is basically his caregiver. Look here. Whatever my sister called me and asked me for, she get it. As long as she able to continue dealing with that man, they're like best friends, and I'm like, yo, praise the Lord. All power to both of y'all. Y'all do it. Just let me know what I need to send for y'all to be okay. But growing up, my father, he would say this. He said, listen, don't ever get so far out there that I can't get you back.
Right.
And there are times when we get so far out there that rope, that little frayed rope that Black America got ain't gonna get you back. And very few of us have a rope. I mean, for 20, 30 years, Brother Johnny Cochran was the only one with a rope. He was able to get OJ back to the shore. Even though he ran back out there amongst the sharks, the great white sharks, and got towed up that way. Now it's Ben Crump, which I ain't seen him get nobody off. I done seen some money change hands, but I ain't, So I think that there's a, and this is part and parcel to that thing that black men, and I'm sure, considering once again that this is simple nature in the prevalence of single female headed households in our community, that Black women, some Black mothers are having to have the talk with their children. The talk of how do you survive an encounter with what could be a thrill-seeking stormtrooper that's working for a law enforcement agency within, and using your tax dollars that you're paying for, but they mean you no good. So I think that a lot of those things go into it. And do I consider what O'Neal did to be reprehensible? Most certainly. Do I understand his logic and why he did it? Certainly. And do I think that there are a bunch of other brothers who would sit here and say, no, I would do the time? Yeah, that's easy to say until you're in that situation. And then white folk look at you and say, boy, you getting ready to do 85 years, fair time. That's a death sentence.
But Doc, isn't that though? Isn't that contrary to being a man? I mean, because at some point, right, it's personal responsibility. It's you did the crime, then damn it, then you got to do the time. Why would you submit yourself to something you're unworthy to submit yourself to? It's against, actually being a man. And the definition that you gave us on man, because if you're gonna punk, and I'm gonna use the words that they understand, you're gonna punk to this cracker and bow down to him like he's your God, then you already separated yourself from the prospects of being a man, because you done punked out to this man because he wants you to go do something wrong to your brother. So
but see, my thing is that, you know, you're jumping across a bunch of things. And one of the foremost things that I believe that you're jumping across is the development of the idea of brotherhood, of unity within Black America. You can look at the harshness of Black culture, the judgment that comes from Black culture, the lack of organized power within Black America. It can be very difficult to be Black in America, number one, but then to navigate your way to love and brotherhood of other Black folk that is genuine. It's very difficult. I mean, let's be very honest about this. Although people may not be turning state's evidence against each other, there is an element of hatred that one could easily find within Black America. Look at how Black women talk about other Black women.
Mhm.
Look at the mean mugging nature, the daggers through eyes that Black men will often shoot at each other. You know, one of the things that I'll tell you that I'm guilty of. I believe that there is and you can say I naively believe this, that there is some connection between Black folk, that we have a somewhat common struggle. Therefore, we should have a common outlook upon life and an affinity for each other. And I usually start my day by speaking to every Black person I see. How you doing? What's up? You know, you good? You know, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
That lasts for probably about, at best, 6 greetings. Because out of that 6 greetings, I probably got 1 response.
Mhm.
And it never fails that when I stop, the next brother like, yo, what up, man? And so now I appear to be like one of those bastards that didn't respond to me.
Mm.
Okay. I don't see, maybe within the familial structure, maybe, and I'm going a long way by saying maybe, but I really don't think that Black folk on an intimate level rally for each other out of love.
Mhm.
I believe that we often rally in the sake of an somewhat abstract cause. That's how you can see droves of people who come out at a unjust assassination
Mhm.
of one of our brothers and sisters. You know, you got thousands, if not tens of thousands of people marching and yelling and screaming. I don't believe that that's love for the deceased. I believe that you may have some regret, and you may view it as being unfortunate, but I think that there's a part of that. It's sort of like the last presidential election. It's in the one before that. Donald Trump's ascension to the White House. The people who voted, many of them didn't cast a vote, and that was their vote against Hillary.
Mhm.
In the last election, I mean, come on. People turned out in droves, not to support Joe Biden. You know, come on, let's be honest. Joe Biden really doesn't have much of a political platform. And if you
Mhm.
really, if Black America really cared to delve into his past, they would realize that he's the one that gave us that draconian crime bill. So Black folk who going out to vote for Joe Biden would make absolutely no sense, because I think you'd be hard pressed to find a Black person in America who didn't have at least one loved one during the late 1980s through the early 2000s who were impacted by that three strikes and you're out law. The disparate sentencing between powder and crack cocaine. So that vote wasn't for Joe Biden. It was a vote against Donald Trump. And I think that many of these protests that people have is that it's not coming out of a posture and a position of love for the deceased or for Black folk. You know, the so-called, you know, Black Lives Matter. I think that what it is a roundabout way, an indirect way of actually protesting against the police, against the unjust killing. And for me, that's unfortunate. And it's very unfortunate, to be honest with you, when you're talking about Black love. You know, we're not a people who have often had much affinity or much genuine affinity for those that we do not know that look like us. You have some, but it's not the norm. It's not. It simply isn't. You know, and I would challenge people to ask themselves, when was the last time that you did something very kind for a Black person, a working class person, a poor person, regardless of their race, that you didn't know? And if it's been a while, you need to really check your humanity and see how much of this system has stained you.
You know, Doc, today when we were out, I stopped at a place called Halal Guys. And I walked in and there was two brothers working the counter. And the younger brother was looking at me and, you know, stopped doing what he was doing to come in and ask me, what did I want? And, you know, I told him what I wanted. And he was like, don't I know you? Don't I know you? And I'm looking at him like, no, brother, I don't think so. And he said, we didn't meet. I know we met. And I'm like, no, bro, I don't think we met. At least if we met, I don't remember. I don't think so. And he says, yeah, I know you. I know you. And he's like, what's your name? I said, you know, Maurice Muhammad, brother Muhammad. And he said, that's what it is. Yo, telling his coworker, come on, this my nigga. This my nigga. You know, I'm like, what? You know, he's like, this the cat I've been telling you about. This dude right here, he the real deal. This my nigga right here. And I'm laughing, everybody's laughing. And then, you know, the dude was like, hey, take pictures with us, take pictures. So, you know, we took pictures. And, you know, he kept going on because he was happy to see me. And he was like, no, I'm sorry. He's not no nigga. He's not no nigga. But brother Muhammad, that man, he's the shit. He's the real deal. You know, and the love that the brother had for me and the other brother who, you know, was just being told about me, you know, both embraced me. The customers was looking like, well, damn, who is this guy? You know, and even as I walk out the store, I happen to look back and they standing there watching me, you know, walk off into the sunset. And I think that the more that we tell the truth, expose the devil, expose the lies, and show them what must be done, you know, it creates that love that is missing, that you were just talking about from Black people. And I think—
But is that love?
Yes, I would say that it's love. I would say that it's love. And I would say that because to be in the genuineness of that kind of atmosphere, and you know, this wasn't the first time that something like that has happened with a person seeing me and stuff like that. You can feel the genuine love there. And, you know, like I said, this is their first time ever meeting me in the flesh, but from watching the videos, even, you know, if you go back on the YouTube and you look at the comments that, you know, our audience leave for us down there. You know, a lot of them say, you know, B1 class in session, you know, the doctrine of radical class in session. You know, there's that, we produce that love in our people for us because they know that we stand for them. They know that we speak for them. And this is like, was it last week? No, the week before last, we did the video and Facebook took us off. When I appealed it and said, well, what did we do wrong? What community violations did we commit? Because I wasn't cussing nobody out. I didn't, you know, kill the cracker. We didn't say none of that, you know, none of it. And they did not reply with a reason why they took it down. Now, that program that we did was a heart-touching program. It pulled on heartstrings. And for them to remove the program without any real violation, because it's up on YouTube and YouTube ain't touched it. They ain't touched it, but Facebook removes it. Why? Why would you do that? Because you know what we speak on that video, and that, like I said, that was a real puller, a real wake you up and understand what you need to get done. They took it down. We didn't violate no community rule. We didn't violate no standards.
Yeah, but that takes me back to my earlier point about power. Who can we turn to have that reversed? The same people who took it down?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the problem, and that's my entire point when I'm talking about the idea of what power actually is. You know, because if we had a conduit to power, we could say kind of in the same way that A. Philip Randolph, when he was talking to FDR during the Great Depression and World War I was breaking out, and the American wartime, you know, our industries were being converted to production of war, and these folk, these white folk, and how they were white, they had the nerve to take defense contracts that were partially funded by the tax-paying dollars of Black folk, and then to use those dollars to discriminate against us by not hiring us. Randolph goes and he talks to FDR, and FDR says, well, I sympathize with your movement and the idea of racial equality. He said, but I can't do anything, because if I do anything, the Southern senators will lock up the New Deal legislation trying to make it through, and we need that to make it through, which is reasonable, in which we know historically that they're still doing it to this very day. But Randolph's response was, well, if you don't ban discrimination in the wartime industries, we will march on Washington. And it will be a propaganda nightmare for the United States, because here you are trying to mobilize patriotism and a belief that we're morally superior to Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, told you. So if you don't do this, we're going to do that. That's one of the few moments where we've had some power, and we were able to utilize that power. And FDR blinks first and signs Executive Order 8802. Where's your power machine at? What we get? We still got what, the Rainbow Coalition, Jesse? You know, is that what we offering? Is that those are our stormtroopers? You know, with Al Sharpton, what was it, Bush? You know, is that what we got? And when you really think about it, the development of a machine, you know, I'm always reminded of Ella Baker and her idea of decentralized leadership. I believe that we all need to be doing our part, but we do need institutions, because only institutions can go to war with other institutions. It's just what it is.
You know, there's a brother, Brother Confidence, and he's out there in Jacksonville,
That's a
Florida.
name right there, boy, Brother Confidence.
He's out there in Jacksonville, Florida, and no matter whether it's on Facebook or Clubhouse, you know, he's consistently trying to build those institutions where you have Blacks, no matter whether you from America, you from Haiti, you from wherever, you know, but come together as a powerhouse, yeah, to be able to do the things necessary to move us from point A to point B to point C to point D. You also have Sister Cassie, and she talks about a Black think tank. I was on her program the other night, and it's like the ideas that are out there in the atmosphere of what needs to be done, they're there, they're understandable. The problem comes with the will to carry it out, because to carry that out means that you got to go to war against white folk. That's what it means at the end of the day. You're going to go to war against the cracker. And there's too many of our people that are afraid to take that step, as you were talking earlier about O'Neill and him not really having a choice, even though the way I look at it, he did have a choice, because there's no situation where there's just no choices. You may not like the choice, but there's a choice. And as long as the cracker can punk us and make us do things that are against our own best interests, that are against our own self-interest, then we will never move beyond the point that we are today. And so to be able to infuse our people with that kind of love, that kind of ability to say, let's go do what it got to do, regardless to the circumstance, is where we got to be at. And in order to do that, you got to remove fear from them, because they fear the cracker more than they love freedom.
Yeah, but see, that's kind of my point. You know, I wrote a blog probably years ago, something to the effect of "I'm not worried about white folk," and the entire point was quite simply, I really am not worried about white folk. I'm worried about getting Black folk together and getting them on the right page. Because if we're on the right page and we're loving each other and we're supporting each other and we're putting action to the theory, because Lord knows that one could come up with a great argument that God is Black, for the simple fact that He has sent us so many messengers, so many leaders who have had pretty much the same framework of a solution to our problems, but we haven't had the ability, the desire, the discipline to follow them and to implement anything. I think that the idea of going to war with white folk is premature, because we got to get our house in order first. And step one in getting that house in order is you've got to educate your own. If you don't educate your own and you're not pouring into your own, you're sunk. Because their mind, they are, for all intents and purposes, white-minded. And if they are white-minded, Lord knows they're going to be scared of white folk. You know, and as Khalid Muhammad said, you know, it's possible to be in such a situation that when you close your eyes to pray, a white man appears.
Mm-hmm.
And if your God don't look like you, we got some others, and we got some deprogramming that need to go on. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you know, and to be fair and honest, our people are not that bad off in regards to having the urge and the desire to want to help and to do something. They know that things are wrong, and I know brothers and sisters who are volunteering for programs, who are doing their own thing and what have you, and it's a very beautiful thing. But then at the same time, I know some who are the equivalent of wolves in sheep clothing. that are able to market and propagate an idea that they have and have it funded, and take the money and go and do something totally different, robbing the people. And the problem with that is quite simply that if you rob those who are willing to aid us, you've done something that I don't think that any righteous man would recognize. And that thing is quite simply, you've sown distrust amongst those who believed and wanted to aid. And they will probably never again sow into Black America. And that's beyond criminal. That's something that's spiritual. That level of crime is spiritual. And I yield, brother.
Yes, sir. I definitely understand that. And, you know, because you and I both think the same, we're on the same page, as we don't even think about the cracker. They don't produce no fear in us, because what we have to do, you know, to hell with them. But it's the rest of our people that do. And, you know, I can't even call that a conversation me and my father had last night. Over this issue of, you know, white people being, you know, quote unquote, your ally, they're being your friend, they're being this, you know, type of godly being, that love is going to cure all. Love is the most powerful thing on the planet. Well, damn it, if love is so powerful, and I'm not saying it's not powerful, but if it's so powerful the way that you claim it to be, we haven't loved white folks long enough for them to stop being as evil as they are to us. And we offer them love and what it is that we receive in return. So, you know, I think that we are hell-bent. Not most of our people, some of our people are hell-bent on loving the wrong type of people. Really, they're hell-bent on it, thinking that it's going to produce a substantial change. And it doesn't. It's just foolishness. But I wanna share this clip before we get to the clip, though. But you touched on it, and I want us to go deeper. When we're dealing with this theology of, you know, my white Christian brother, this theology of, we gotta love, as Common said, we gotta love white people more. And for me, that's just foolishness. It's just foolishness. But what's your idea on what Common said about, we gotta love, Black people have to love white people more in order to get up out of this oppressor and oppressed people versus the oppressor? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, now, although it may seem as if I'm biased, after what I'm finna say, I've never liked Common. I remember Common back when he was Common Sense. And I swear that brother, they wasn't playing the beat when he was rhyming. It was like he was doing spoken word. It was horrible. But it's talk like that is nonsensical. It has no historical basis whatsoever. It's foolishness. And it really leads you to the belief of what a waste of a public platform, of all the people that he could actually meet, you know. And this is the brother who did the song for Asada. So I know that he has some semblance of exposure to politics and history. And for him to say that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'll use the line that I heard Brother John Henry Clark use against Cornel West when they debated at Ohio State. West was talking about this love, and you know, that we have to love and we have to this and that. And Dr. Clark looks at him and he says, "You wouldn't say that to a Jew." Now, if you take Common's comment and you have him go and stand before the Anti-Defamation League. Okay, have him go do a commercial that says quite simply, the solution to anti-Semitism, to the hatred of Jews, is to love those who hate you. You think that brother from Creed 3, Jonathan Majors, is in trouble? Common would never work again. They wouldn't put a mic nowhere near him unless he was crying and apologizing for what he said. But he's able to get that off against Black America because he's not beholden to us. So he's serving a different master. And that master doesn't have anything to do with the Black agenda, you know. And so that's troubling. And it's yet another sign that out of all of the illnesses that afflict Black America, there is no more significant one than mental illness. We're out of our minds, and it has become normalized for you to be out of your mind.
And also, I want to make the announcement, because if you would like to call into the program, the number and the code is in the chat on Facebook, so you can always call in. Again, that number is 353-334-8869, and the code is 1YF4BG. Again, that code and number is listed in the top of the chat as my first comment. So for those who's listening, watching, if you would like to call in and participate, please do so. I will read a couple of comments right quick. Brother James Muhammad says,
hold on 1 second, brother. The first number, 353-334-8869, is the meeting ID. They'll have to come on the Zoom and type that into the meeting ID. That's 353-334-8869, and the passcode is the one that you gave.
Okay, so that number, that 35, is that a call-in number or?
No, that's the meeting ID. They'll call in and they'll go directly into the queue, and you'll be able to pull them out of the queue as you see fit.
Okay, perfect. So Brother James Muhammad, one of his comments is, without self-love as an individual first, one can't love another so-called Black person. It starts with responsibility and accountability to self. It's comfortable to be a slave. Then he says, we don't want to come out of the comfort into our self-autonomy. First, enter independence, then independence, which can be accomplished even among white people. Separate from their distractions and the further support and focus and energy of and in their world. Again, that's Brother James Muhammad.
Oh, believe me,
Thank you, Brother James.
I recognize that logic from my brother.
Definitely. And everything that the brother said is definitely true. Love does start from self. And definitely without self-love, you can't love anybody else. But we're going to go, and I'm going to share screen so we can watch this video. And it's about a 13-minute video. So I hope everybody be patient. Yes, 13 minutes, but I want us to hear it because this is a white pastor who's over this organization called One Nation. No, it's called Every Nation City Church, and it's worldwide. And out of this big organization, and it's huge, it's huge. But they only got 3 Black pastors. For one, to me, that's problematic already, that you only have 3 Black pastors in this huge international organization. But let's listen, and then we're going to come back and talk about what we've heard. And for me, this thing just shows how problematic it is and a reason why you can't trust the cracker. But let's look at this.
What heaven's going to be like. And I'm looking forward to that day someday. But I'm also looking forward to heaven on earth today. Jesus is the one who taught us as his disciples how to pray. And he said, when you pray, pray this way. Our Father, who art in heaven, he's a daddy to us all. He's a daddy to whether you're young, old, black, white, brown, yellow, rich, poor. He's a father to us all. Jesus said, our Father, pray this way, disciples, who art in heaven. Hallowed be your name. And the very next words is a constant reminder and an inspiration and encouragement for all of us to always think this way and to pray this way. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You see, God is looking for sons and daughters that will be his representatives to pray and to bring his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. And as if the COVID crisis were not enough, we now are facing another national crisis. And unless you haven't watched news, unless you completely went away from social media and news, you might not know about the George Floyd situation. But I want to lead us today. I want to lead our church, and I'm going to ask you right now to stop what you're doing. I know that some of you are at home with children and they're running around, and hopefully they don't have a knife in their hands or scissors in their hands, but there's probably pandemonium in a lot of households. But I'm going to ask Mom and Dad for you to stop, and for the next few minutes for you to join with me in heart and to join with all the other members and guests and people that are participating online and pray for our nation in light of this injustice and in light of this tragedy. And if you would please permit me a few moments to set the stage for prayer. Christianity seeks as an ideal to protect the helpless and the disadvantaged from widows and orphans, as found in James 1, to those who have been victims of brutal prison treatment, like what happened in the Roman Empire, to those that are poor and needy and destitute, even to the stranger and the alien, as found in Leviticus chapter 19. The Christian faith goes well beyond tolerance. You guys, our baseline response is not tolerance. Our baseline response is deep, fervent love. Loving our neighbor. Loving those who maybe don't love us in return. Even loving our enemies, like it says in Luke chapter 6. Proverbs 31, 8 and 9 says this: speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. See, we're to speak up for the rights of those who can't speak for themselves. We're to speak up and to really make sure and to, if you will, to canvass and even demonstrate if need be, to make sure that justice is done in our land. Because if it's not done in our land, then it affects every single one of us. On May 25th, George Floyd was taken captive. He was handcuffed. He was mistreated. He was placed face down on the street. And a police officer, one of 4 that were there, put his knee on George Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes. He eventually went unconscious and died at the hands of Minneapolis police law enforcement officers. He cried several times that he couldn't breathe, but his cries went unheeded. You guys, this is wrong. This is tragic. This is appalling, and this should not be tolerated. Whether you're Christian or not, this kind of activity in our nation should not be tolerated. It shouldn't be tolerated for treatment for any human, let alone someone who's a citizen of our nation. But most importantly, this should not be tolerated at the hands of those who are civic leaders or law enforcement officers. I want to read to you the Minneapolis Police Department oath. It states, "I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear of favor, malice, or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence." That oath was broken over and again in just one event. And it's our responsibility, church, to hold our government leaders and officials, to hold them accountable for their actions, not in hate, not by sinning in our anger, but in love, but in righteousness and in truth. Church, we cannot be silent. And I'm going to ask you in just a moment to turn your silence into something that's usable from God, to turn it into prayer, to turn it into some kind of action today. We cannot, church, I want to adjust an attitude of thinking that I've heard in some Christians. It's an attitude that says, yes, but. Yes, but he broke the law. Or yes, but he had a record. Or yes, but look at all the looting and the rioting. You guys, there's no excuse for this level of police brutality. No excuse. Ever, ever, ever. Especially in our nation. And I will say this, that I believe that this is a systematic problem. This is not just an isolated event. I don't want Christians to marginalize it and say, well, this doesn't happen that much. Well, we've seen it over and over again. And it rips at the heart of our nation. The system, to some degree, is broken. And we, as Christians, need to pray, and we need to act in order to help to make it better. But what we can do, 3 things we can do. We can pray, we can peaceably demonstrate, and we can extend reconciliation to those who are hurt in the middle of this crisis. I've called up a lot of my African-American brothers and sisters. Some of you know we have 3 pastors in our church that are African-American. I've called them and talked to every one of them. And they will all tell you the same thing. This hurt deeply. And today, as we pray, I want you to feel what they feel. I want you to empathize with the anger, with the frustration, with the disappointment that they're going through as we pray. Would you stand all across the city? Would you stand? Because I believe that the early church, when they prayed, they stood up. And I want us to stand right now and pray over our city, our state, and our nation. God of heaven, Father of us all, we come together in the name of Jesus, and we pray for peace over our nation. God, we pray that you would assuage the pain of every single person in this nation who's experienced anger and hurt and frustration and disappointment, and disillusionment and jadedness because of this and other events. God, we are asking for the church to rise up and be a beacon of love, of redemption, and reconciliation at this time. God, I'm asking that across this great nation of ours, that churches would rise up and speak out, that there would be a holy anger, but there would not be sin. God, let us not give in to the rioting and the looting and all of that, but God, let us decide that enough is enough, and we're not going to let things stay where they are. We're not going to accept the status quo as the best that it can be. God, help our elected officials. God, we pray for our chief of police, Chief Michael Moore, here in LA. God, would you help him? Would you give him wisdom? I listened to him talk at length yesterday, and I could tell he's so torn personally in his own soul, but God, would you help him? Would you give him the grace and the understanding how to lead? God, we pray for our dear Mayor, Eric Garcetti. God, would you help him right now? Would you be with him? Would you give him grace? Would you give him wisdom? God, let him be able to lead. God, he's had so many different crises that he had to lead. He's had to lead through the homelessness crisis. He's had to lead through the COVID crisis. And now he's having to lead through these riots. God, would you help him, strengthen him? God, give him good people around him on his left and right, on his in front of him and behind him to help him and to instruct him and to guide him and advise him in the right way. Father, we pray for the governors and the mayors of different cities like in Atlanta and in Chicago and Detroit and Minneapolis and other places where rioting is broken out. God, would you help them? God, we pray that there would be no more shedding of blood. And we do pray that the church would rise up, that there would be a voice that would come out of the darkness, the voice of your kingdom, the voice of your spirit, through the lives of your sons and daughters that would bring hope and peace and love during this hour. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen.
I appreciate the entire staff of this church, Every Nation City Church. I appreciate the identification that you intentionally employ with my struggle, with people of my ethnic persuasion. You don't just talk it, you actually live it. And the empathy is felt, the understanding is communicated well, and it means a lot. I have lived my entire life in the environment of trying to figure out what it looks like to navigate through ethnic tension and to bring healing. That's all I've done. By the grace of God, he's been able to help me do that more often than not. And to have other people who are partnering with me who don't look like me, believe in the same thing I believe, though, practice the same thing I practice, though, and are willing to sit down and dialogue with me about what it means to be black in America. Why in the world this one death causes so much upheaval, because there is no substitute for real peace. You can't have just détente. Détente is just a cessation of conflict. Doesn't mean there's peace. And so if nothing happens for 6-9 months a year, people think, well, it's okay now, right? No. There's 400 years of history of poor treatment, oppressive treatment, intentional racism, institutionalized bigotry against us. And it's only been recent history whereby I would have been able to even speak to people like you in a church like this. Just since I've been alive, before 1960, this would have never happened. And even during the 60s, even during the 70s, never. And never would a man of my ethnic persuasion, an African American, been able to be appointed as the leader for a predominantly white movement in America. Never. It's been recent. So I know most of us live in the environment where we don't experience, if you're African American, bigotry every day, and those of you who are white think things are okay as long as there's no conflict. There is an underbelly in our country that needs to be addressed on a regular basis, and I am grateful. I'm grateful for people like Pastor David and Amy that are willing to dialogue and talk and bring us to a point of understanding that has its aim, its goal, reconciliation.
All right. So you heard you heard the pastor over this Every Nation organization, which only has 3 black ministers, 3 black pastors. International organization. You heard the last, what I would call an apologist for white America. And you heard the preacher give his prayer. And, some things in there that he said. See, one thing that we definitely have to do is be able to piece apart and break it down, analyze what it is that you're hearing, so you'll understand exactly where the person is coming from. Now, for me, in my way of I'm thinking always is black first. And in my eyes, the cracker is the enemy 100%. Ain't no deviation from that. Now, you'll get maybe 1 in 10,000, 2 in 40,000, something like that, of a good cracker. You'll get a good one, right? But the cracker that we just listened to is not a good cracker. He's not a good cracker. And I'll go and say my spiel of why I think he's not a good cracker, and then we'll let Doc come in. He says the system, to some degree, is broken. No, the system is not broken to some degree. It's totally the way the system is the way the system was already meant to operate. It's operating exactly as they meant it to be. So from a white perspective, oh, we just got to do a little patching here and a little patching there. He doesn't really want true peace. He speaks about defending the poor and the needy, as Jesus said. But if you're going to speak up, how are you going to speak up? You want to go out there, get you your sign and carry your sign to say Black Lives Matter and say, I protested with the niggas. I was out there on Front Street and I protest with you. So because you protest, we supposed to. Hell no, that ain't nothing. You want to peacefully assemble. You want to do exactly what they told you to do. But when it comes to rioting, that's a sin. We don't want you to riot. We don't want you to tear shit up. Don't do that, because that's a sin. Don't overthrow tables. Don't break windows. But that's what Jesus did. He talks about reconciliation. You can't have no reconciliation if you don't admit your evil deeds that you have done and the evil deeds that you continue to do. No reconciliation. We suffer genocide every day in America at the hands of the enemy. I don't believe that their father is our father. Their father is the devil. Their father is Satan. And the works of him they shall do. And I'll stop there. I don't because I can get rolling and stay rolling. But Doc, you come on in. And what is your thoughts of Massa and his slave nigga that just came on?
I wouldn't characterize them that way. But what I will say about I'll deal with the I guess the main pastor, white guy that talked. I've heard all of that before. And in many ways, it is a feel-good exercise that is in every way aimed at soothing, kind of putting a balm over what is in many ways a superficial injury, a rash. Nothing real serious about it. These people may not, and I don't operate from the perspective that they're all necessarily evil, but I believe that there are many of them who are just so busy with their own lives and protecting their own lives, and they neither realize nor do they care that their day-to-day walk, their operations are harmful to the have-nots. And that's one of the ironies of Christianity, that so many of those who have, if you believe in the prosperity gospel, have been blessed by God, have utilized those blessings to improve their lives and enrich themselves, and not to do what the Messiah ordered us to do. There's nothing new there. We've seen that before. I would imagine if you would search the archives for that moment post Rodney King, you would find some white pastors saying pretty much the exact same thing. It's the most that they're capable of doing in the face of racial strife. They're not astute And most people are not astute. That's one of the ironies of being in a nation that is saturated with racial bias, bigotry, and hatred, that we are still, as a society, not equipped or astute to address and deal with those things. We know very little about race as a general populace. So there's nothing really there to talk about. The brother, I don't believe that you should ever pander to anyone, let alone those that have historically exploited and denigrated your people. I believe that if they are due that criticism, then it must be dished out. Okay. However, what I will say about both of them combined, and this sort of ties into the idea of racial reconciliation, just throw that out the window. There is no chance for racial reconciliation, not truly. As long as Black folk realize that the riches that white folk have built their society upon came at their exploitation, and the white folk who inherited those material goods feel that they are entitled to them, and that it is not the negative exploitation parts of it is not a part of their inheritance in enjoying those riches. So you can throw that out. The best that church could do, the best that any prominent white person could do, would be, the best thing would be to open the gates and move out the way, and provide Black folk access. But I think that that's an unreasonable request that they're not going to do, because they're interested in maintaining their power. I think the best that they could possibly do, maybe the only thing that they could possibly do that they would find appealing and appetizing, is to teach Black folk how to build a institution like the one that they have. I think that brothers like the one that you just saw, those types of brothers, and I try to always pause in regards to criticizing people, because you don't know people's personal politics and what have you. People criticize me not knowing my personal politics. But I think that we have a class of individuals who are positioned like that brother, and their mind goes to maintaining that position by any means necessary. And their mind never turns into a situation of, from being a servant to potentially being an owner, by examining and studying from the inside how that particular organization or industry works, with the idea of breaking away and independently starting your own. I think that there is a comfort, as Brother James Muhammad said, in being a servant and not being truly free, because, as Mos Def put it, freedom ain't free. That scares our people. I believe that if we can park ourselves right within a white institution that enriches us financially, personally, that we'll stay right where we're at and never challenge and try to establish something for our own. And I yield, brother.
Excellent, Doc. I want to go and read another comment Brother James wrote, because I think it strikes right there at the heart of it, and it goes in same direction in what you were saying. Brother James said, "It's the acceptable path of least resistance, and we do the same every Sunday." So, I think we need to spend some time breaking this apart, because it's true. And I don't know if our brothers and sisters that go to church on Sunday, if they really understand what the comment that Brother James has just given us. So I want to go into this a little bit deeper before we go to the next clip. So Doc, what is?
I agree wholeheartedly with what Brother James Muhammad said. The truth of the matter is that so many of our people don't understand, and once again, this is sort of the sin of Umar. Our people may not have the knowledge or truly have the understanding, but they have the urge to do something. And we must demand that the praise houses, the churches, the mosque that we attend are doing more than emotional titillation of our people, getting them all worked up, and in many ways, sort of creating a temporary block in their minds, in their spirits, in their souls against all that ails them. Now, it's going to be waiting right outside after the service is over. And all you've had is a brief respite from your day-to-day walk as a Black person, a poor Black person, a working class Black person in white America. We have to have our institutions understand that it is upon us to build the next generation of leaders, to step in and to analyze and to continue to fight in the struggle. What our leadership has unfortunately done, and this is one of the reasons why you look at the Black leadership, except for the few brothers like the Jeffries brother. He's Hassan Jeffries' cousin, I believe, Hakeem Jeffries, Leonard Jeffries' nephew. Our leadership is old and aging. And one of the reasons for that is that they position themselves in an organization or a political office, and they hold it as theirs because they believe that's their only moment of utility. That's what they live for, that position, that posting. That's their importance. And they ain't giving it up for even the grooming of the next generation of Black folk, of young Black leadership. And in many ways, it reminds you of one of the things that Kevin Samuels would say about Black women in their late 30s and the 40s, that they're not schooling younger girls on how they should be, because those younger girls are their competition now. And older Black civil rights leaders, whatever you want to refer to them as, many of them are not interested in grooming the next generation, because that next generation is going to do to them, they believe, what the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee basically did to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. King's organization. So there's, even within racial uplift work, we have some significant problems with getting along. And I yield, brother.
Doc, is the church guilty of cowardice in serving Satan?
Yes. Yes, and I'm speaking in general.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very blessed and fortunate to have strong, courageous Black pastors that I sat under, and that's by design. I don't need, it's nice to have, a nice choir, get there and tap your foot and what have you. But what I need the word. I need the meat. And if I'm not receiving that, if I'm not getting that, I leave. There's no need for a discussion or anything like that. I can't learn anything from this pastor. And if I can't learn anything from this pastor, I know that I don't belong up in that church. And so my short answer is yes. I see very few pastors. The majority, I would say 90% of them are super charismatic and engaging and charming, can sing X, Y, and Z. But I don't see them uplifting the minds of our people. And, you know, it may be a position of chauvinism for me because where I go, they do that. And the product that I see coming out of other churches, I don't see that aspect of it. I see it as ceremonial. I see it as routine. This is what we do on Sunday. And then we get ready to go down to the old soul food restaurant and clog our arteries up with macaroni cheese and fried chicken and call it a Sunday. No liberation work has been even considered.
Definitely, I agree. Now I'm on a share screen, and we're going to go to a next video. And hopefully, Doc, you haven't heard about this one yet. But in these jails of America, we've been beaten, we've been killed, we've been boiled to death, literally boiled to death. And this is a new one. We've now been eaten by bugs to death. And these conditions, you can't tell me that whites in the city don't know what's going on, that they don't know what the conditions are in the jail, that they're totally oblivious to what's going on. So you may not be responsible for slavery. You may not be guilty, for the slavery, but you're damn sure responsible for that and all the treatment that our people have received. This thing, now when I saw this, I was just like, what in the world? But let's take a look at this one really quick.
News First starts now.
You would not wish it on anyone. A family says a man was found dead, covered in bugs, inside his Fulton County jail cell. I'm Sean Gables.
And I'm Rick Fulbaum. And tonight, new at 6, his attorney argues he got no medical help leading up to his death. Just look at where LaShawn Thompson was allegedly sleeping. This deteriorating cell in the jail's psychiatric wing. And we're told that LaShawn Thompson suffered from mental health issues.
Atlanta News First reporter Zach Summers live at the Fulton County. There, Zach, you just learned from Thompson's attorney. Those images are disturbing.
Yeah, you know, the lawyer representing the family of LaShawn Thompson tells me this is one of the most inhumane inmate deaths he has ever encountered. The family wants the public to see the poor conditions they say their loved one endured while here at the Fulton County Jail, but we must warn you, some of the images are graphic.
It's just unbelievable.
The image is hard to look at. 35-year-old LaShawn Thompson unresponsive in a Fulton County jail cell, covered in what his family's attorney says are insect and bedbug bites.
The scene was so horrific that the detention officer said she would not even administer CPR when they found him because she was freaked out. In her words, freaked out by the scene.
Thompson was arrested for misdemeanor battery in June of 2022. Attorney Michael Harper says the inmate was placed in the psychiatric wing of the jail where he remained for 3 months.
No one really checked on him. We have some records from the jail showing that they saw he was deteriorating from the medical staff and from detention officers.
Thompson was found dead inside his cell on September 13th, 2022. An autopsy showed no signs of trauma. While his death is listed as undetermined, the medical examiner noted a severe bed bug infestation.
It looks like it had been there for months, and no one cared. No one cleaned it up. No one did anything, apparently.
Pictures from inside Thompson's cell show deplorable conditions. The room covered in filth, Harper says, unfit for even a dog.
No one should live in those conditions, whether you're charged with a crime or not.
Thompson's family now calling for accountability. They want the jail shut down and replaced and a full criminal investigation into their loved one's death.
It's a big ask, we understand that. But you have to make the conditions better to avoid this from happening to someone else.
And we reached out to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office for comment. We are still waiting on a response. Thompson's family planning a press conference tomorrow at 2 at the Fulton County Courthouse. We, of course, will be there. Live in Atlanta, Zach Summers, Atlanta News First.
Well, new tonight, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office taking additional action after an inmate died in the county jail. The Sheriff's Office announcing today they'll be adding more staffers to their mental health unit. They're also going to be moving more than 600 inmates to other counties to help relieve the overcrowding. That's going to cost them about $40,000 a day. Now, this comes as the family of LaShawn Thompson is threatening to sue the Sheriff's Office. Thompson died last year, and while his cause of death is listed as undetermined, his family claims he was eaten alive by bed bugs. Overcrowding issues at the jail are well known, though. The sheriff himself says the jail is held together with duct tape and bubble gum. And a recent study shows it would need to almost quadruple in the next 24 years to house all of its inmates. Well, the county and city of Atlanta recently agreed to a 4-year lease to move some detainees to the Atlanta City Detention Center to alleviate overcrowding.
Family of a Fulton County jail and
All right. So, as I said, we've been beat to death. We've been burnt alive, scalded to death. Now we've been eaten by bugs to death. I don't even, I mean, Doc, the jailer said she was freaked out. She couldn't even perform CPR because he's all covered in bugs. What say you, Doc?
You also do to me the words of Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesus the Christ figure. It's simply another sign to me that, and this isn't for me, this isn't a racial issue. This is a humanity issue. This is because I guarantee you that it's not just Black folk locked up in that jail. It's probably predominantly Black folk. But you elected these people or elected the individual who appointed these people. And one of the things is that justice, the arc of justice, Dr. King talked about this. It may be long, but it always bends towards righteousness, truth and righteousness. And karma's a bitch. You don't create a society like this that allows these things to occur and think that you're going to get away and be able to live your life the way you live your life. We as a nation have become desensitized to a whole lot of things because we live in a very traumatic moment. I wouldn't even call it increasingly traumatic because Black folk have always got the rough end of the stick. But I think that the ability to have these types of things typed into our devices, cell phones, you got Twitter, you got Instagram, all these different things, you're constantly receiving messages of something. And I believe that a part of the path for these types of things to be permissible and acceptable in a first world nation comes from the deluge of messages that Black folk ain't worth nothing. That Black folk ain't this and ain't that. Even though the famous quote that LBJ had, where he talks about if you can ensure for the poorest white man that he's above Black man, you can pick his pockets clean. In fact, he'll empty them for you. I believe that that's LBJ uses the metaphor of money, but I think that can be extended to care, to morality, to concern for one's humanity. We need to really understand that I believe that we're past the tipping point for being able to come back into love, into care, and consider each other. And the historical record backs that up, that one is hard pressed, except for maybe a John Brown, to find whites who, by and large, the majority of them had some care and consideration for someone outside of them, just because they were human. We have to do, and by we, I mean Black folk, I mean working class folk, I mean poor people. We got to change to the point where we're caring for each other and considering each other. You're not out here trying to grab these little metal trinkets, these cars, this gold, these purses and what have you, and to make them greater than thee, greater than yourself. And, you know, to see a brother, they knew that they had a bed bug infestation. And if you know anything about bed bugs, they wasn't just in that sale. I think that you need to come up with not only a class action suit for those who are incarcerated there, because they are humans, and it says so much about the free how we treat those who are enslaved. But we also need to have criminal prosecution of those who knew of those conditions, and send a significant message, as significant of a message as you would see sent if someone high and mighty was offended. And until that's accomplished, we're not going anywhere. And unfortunately, the reason it won't be accomplished, that we won't see everyone prosecuted, is that those with the ability to make the decision to prosecute are in their position because of things that usually happen behind the scenes, donations to a political campaign and what have you. So they're all in cahoots together. But there's no way of looking at this if you have an ounce of humanity. And I wouldn't care if he was white, blue, purple. This reflects upon humanity. And these are the people that I have to interact with on a daily basis, that my child has to navigate his way through this life with. And it's sad. And I yield, brother.
Definitely. And for the sheriff to say that the jail is held together with duct tape and bubble gum. He knew that from day one of him stepping into the job. And to me, it's, you know, and I don't know the racial breakdown of Fulton County, but I know that got to deal with Atlanta.
It is Black, trust me.
Okay.
Atlanta, it is Black.
So there, I would assume that the sheriff is Black.
I don't know, we can assume that.
Yes.
Because it's still Georgia. You know, one comedian said this about Atlanta. He said the worst thing about Atlanta is that you can start in downtown Atlanta and drive 15 minutes in any direction. And now your Black ass is in Georgia. And we can never forget that. Never forget that, you know, yeah, never forget that.
And so that sheriff, and regardless of color, has a responsibility that to the inmates, that they're safe and secure in that building under their jurisdiction. And this is clearly a case of, I don't give a damn, and whatever happened to you, fuck it, I'm going home.
Yeah, but I think that it extends further than that, to be honest with you, in this way. That people nowadays, with the economy being the way it is, and I believe that it isn't nowadays, I believe that it is probably decades old. we're not looking at, we're looking at a moment where the propagation of you're better off being locked up because you get health care, you get to eat in the X, Y, and Z than some people are out in the world of work. And that has in many ways turned a lot of people sour on the idea of having even the opportunity for rehabilitation occurring within the prisons. These people forget that, and Judge Greg Mathis would say this often. He said that when he was younger and they would talk about someone getting ready to go away to prison, he said that him and his friends, his inner circle, they referred to it as going to college. Because he's getting ready to graduate into becoming a better criminal. You thought he was a bad motor scooter when he was out here this time, he gonna be worse. And we as a society, and it's all interconnected. It's not as if and I heard a brother that I knew very well who was in and out of prison, and he said this. He said, y'all are always talking about rehabilitation. He said, if you go in there, you'll understand that many of the people in there have never been normal from the beginning. So what are you trying to set them back to? Because they have never been rehabilitated. You can't rehabilitate someone who's never been rehabilitated. And until we really, and Dr. King said this when, during his last moments in Memphis, he says, until we understand that the garbage worker, the sanitation worker can't do his job, the doctor can't do his job, but the sanitation worker doesn't do his job, talking about the interconnected nature of us all. Until that message is delivered, that you have prisons overflowing because you have a impoverished educational system and troubled homes and socialization, and to drop the ball on one of those areas means that the rest of it is going to unravel. And Douglas's great quote where he says something to the effect, it is easier to build strong children than to fix broken men. Folks wait. Once they get to a certain point and they've been basically raised in gladiator school, that's going to be very hard to pull them back from. And you almost are going to have to solve that problem, to concede what many people who want to throw these populations away with saying, the idea of just put them on an island and let them do what they're going to do. But they say that for the brother who has committed a misdemeanor, but shudder the thought of who's the white girl from Theranos who's just now getting ready to go into prison. Okay, so if you're gonna throw my brothers, my poor and working class brothers who might have robbed a bank because they're trying to get something to eat, make sure her ass and the other Wall Street financial people and bankers have a space on that boat as well. Be fair, be consistent, but I know you won't be.
Exactly, and that chick with the Theranos boy, I said, get the world out of here. They invested the money into her, to me, because she was white.
Well, she was white. She was white and well connected. I mean, it all comes down to how you want to analyze it and discuss it. I mean, she's white. She's well connected. I mean, I believe it was Henry Kissinger was on her board.
That's right. Okay.
You don't just get next to Henry Kissinger without your family being from money. And it's just what it is. There ain't no real getting around that. That's what it is. But talk about her in the light that and describe her in the light that you would describe non-elite people. She is a damn college dropout
Mm-hmm.
who scammed people out of millions of dollars. And to make it worse, she risked and endangered the health of individuals and was able to pull it off and to remain out of jail because she's got money behind her.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. And she would never have to worry about being in a jail where she's gonna be eaten alive by bed bugs.
No.
Never, never. And Brother James, I want to read his comment real quick. Then we're going to move on to the last video of the evening. Brother James says that newscast there and throughout the country is as much of the problem. There are resources, but what is the focus? Provocation, sensationalism, and further social engineering. It is a system of moving parts. Criminal justice is a cog in the wheel. It keeps people employed as long as it's not me and I have a job. Just over broke, we cool. The systems are intertwined and function within and among one another. Health, religion, and education, etc. Your thoughts on that, Doc?
If there's a person that, you know, I could use the term that we're twin-minded, it would be that brother right there. You know, I agree with everything that he said. You know, the thing that gets me and always gets me about these moments is, did they find some more money, a pot of money in their budget that allows them to now move these prisoners out of there?
Good question.
Because if they didn't, they should be jailed. Because you could have, that's definitive proof that you could have interceded and stopped this. Okay, and if the taxpayers cared about fiscal responsibility, they should have been moved out of there. It's going to cost them $40,000 a day. Think about that drain that you're talking about 1.2 million a month because of your dereliction of duty. They should have been moved out of there, clean that place up, get it back to the point where it is fit for human consumption, human living, and then save us 1.2 million by bringing them back. But you did not do that. So where's the call for some type of recall of the individuals who are in positions of authority? And until you're willing to take that step and you're willing to do something very definitive, shut up. Because this is, regardless of how Black he was, how mentally ill he was a human. And one thing is for sure, nobody knows what's coming next. Okay? You could very well be, if you allow this to go and for this to be the standard, what if in your, as you age, you develop dementia or Alzheimer's? And you're put in that situation because it was allowed. Those are the things that really need to be being dealt with right now. Not all of this BS about you know, Trump and this and that. Now let's deal with something that is concrete, and it needs to be proactive. And in regards to it, it is, you know, it is inexcusable that Black America, and I focus upon us, that Black America is not aware, that his family was not aware. But I guarantee you they can name every one of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Because that's where our focus is. We're silly-minded. We like things that titillate us, things that entertain us. And the entire time, you and everybody else you know remains enslaved and chained. Grow up.
That's it right there. grow up. Grow up. And with that, we're gonna share screen and we're gonna go to the last video for this evening. And, you know, we've had so many school shootings in America this year, last year, year before that. But we finally got to a point where a parent is being charged criminally for how this shooting has happened. And unfortunately, the first one is one of us. Let's check it out.
The mother of a 6-year-old who police say shot his teacher at Rich Neck Elementary School earlier this year is now facing charges. Our Tracy Sears spoke to an expert about what the charges are and explains what else Newport News officials are looking into.
Earlier Monday, a grand jury in Newport News indicted the 25-year-old mother on 2 counts, 1 felony child neglect and also leaving a loaded firearm in the presence of a child. She is the first person to face charges in this case. 3 months after police say a 6-year-old student shot his first-grade teacher, Abby Swarner, at Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News, a grand jury has indicted the child's mother, Deja Taylor. Swarner was hospitalized for nearly 2 weeks after being shot in the chest and left hand on January 6th. The teacher has since filed a $40 million lawsuit against the school board and several administrators over alleged repeated warnings that the 6-year-old child was not only a danger to others, but had a gun that particular day. While Commonwealth's attorney Howard Gwynn did not seek charges against the child based on his age, he asked the circuit court to enlist a special grand jury to investigate circumstances surrounding the shooting, including security issues, to determine whether additional people are criminally responsible under the law.
One grand jury can look at the entire incident. And quite frankly, they can investigate anything that needs to be investigated, they determine needs to be investigated.
Criminal defense attorney Ed Riley says unlike regular grand juries, special grand juries can be used as an investigative tool to evaluate facts in the case.
In this circumstance, they're brought together specifically to look at this incident. So the expectation would be that they would look at all the players involved and make a determination at a probable cause level, which is the role of the grand jury to determine if a true bill should be granted, which is essentially an indictment.
Shortly after the shooting, Taylor's attorney released a statement saying a gun was legally purchased and kept secure in a closet with a trigger lock. Virginia law on felony child neglect says any parent, guardian, or other person responsible for the care of a child can be charged if they show reckless disregard for human life. If found guilty of the Class 6 felony, Taylor faces up to 5 years in prison. On the misdemeanor charge of having an unsecured loaded gun, Taylor faces up to a year in jail. The attorney for Deja Taylor says his client will turn herself over to authorities later this week. In Richmond, Tracy Sears, CBS 6 News.
Tonight, we are.
So here you have it. 6-year-old brings a gun to school and shoots his white teacher. He didn't kill her. He shot her in the hand. She's still living. She's still working. Out of all these school shootings, this is what you charge? You charge a Black woman, felony child neglect, up to 5 years, and leaving a gun, a loaded gun, unsupervised, a misdemeanor for a year. So she's looking at 6 years if they don't throw.
Wasn't the prosecuting attorney Black?
Yes. Yep. Sure was. Now there's white children that took these guns to school and killed way more. He didn't kill nobody. And killed these people up. No parent is charged. But now you got this little Black boy who shoots a white woman. Now we're gonna charge the mama. There's a look. America doesn't really, in my estimation, don't have a gun problem. America has a cracker problem. That's the problem. That is the problem. America has a cracker problem.
Okay, where do they fit in this? Because the prosecutor is a brother. That's what I'm saying. You know, where's the white influence in this incident?
Because he in Virginia and he want to please Massa.
Okay.
He want to please Massa.
Okay, I get you. I get you.
Yeah, he wants to please Massa. So I'm gonna charge this nigga because he shot that white woman. And we gotta uphold and protect that white woman. So mama gets charged.
Okay.
What say you, Doc?
You know, I'm just a person who, you know, I believe she should have been charged. Be honest with you. I asked for fairness and consistency. You know, there are a lot of other things that went into this child seeking a gun and seizing the gun, taking it to school, and then using it. There's a lot more at 6 years old that goes into that. And you know, one of the things that you know, I'm reminded of that great black griot, MC Breed, from Flint, Michigan, who gave us that great anthem, "Ain't No Future in Your Frontin'." I think that Black America needs to stop fronting. And let's be honest, we know some of the living conditions of that our children are being raised in, as far as how they're berated, how they're unsupervised, how, you know, you can go to any, I was at the dentist, took my son to the dentist probably about a month ago, and there was a Black lady who had 3 small children. She disrupted the entire waiting room of the dentist office, yelling at them kids. You get over here and whoop your ass. Come on, sis. So we know on one end that's going on. Let's be clear on that. However, as I said, I look for consistency. Okay. If Deja gotta be charged, you need to go and get Dylan Roof's parents. You need to go and get all of these school shooters' parents. There is no statute of limitations based on murder.
That's right.
Okay, because they are accessories to that murder. If nothing else, based upon child neglect, because they weren't supervising their children. Be consistent across the board with it. But that's impossible for them to do because they enter into this process. And when I say they, I'm talking about not just white folk, I'm talking about Black folk as well. They enter into this process with an extreme bias towards Blackness. Now, one of the, I'll say this, one of the things that I was privileged to be able to do, I work for a local independent Black newspaper called African American News and Issues, located in I don't know if you know Slim Thug down here in Houston, you know, tipping on fofos, rapping fofos. Acres Homes, that's the fofo. African American News and Issues was located in Acres Homes, is located in Acres Homes. Well, the thing is that I had a chance to vet all of these political figures because they wanted the endorsement from African American News and Issues. It's one of those papers that they hand out at the Black church. And I met and vetted Kim Ogg, who is the prosecutor down here in Harris County. And a lot I could say about Kim Ogg. It was a strange meeting, let me say that. However, Kim Ogg, I asked her, I said, why should we put our weight behind you? Because if you get our endorsement, you're gonna get probably 400,000 votes just because we said you should be elected. And I'll never forget her answer. She said, you have to remember that people hate the DA. They hate the prosecutor. She said, but I'm the one that sets the level of the charge. I'm the one that decides if it's going to be first degree, second degree murder, or if it's going to be manslaughter. So you need a sympathetic person in that seat. It's just unfortunate in this case that the brother who's in that seat has no sympathy whatsoever for his own kind. And it would be very interesting to go back and to pull his record on what charges he placed upon Black and white people, middle class and poor people. And I guarantee you, you will see a bias. This brother is trying to probably do what the prosecutor for the Scottsboro boys did. And we're talking about all the way back in 1931. He makes this comment. He says, I'm going to ride their Black asses right into the governor's mansion.
Mm.
This brother could have larger and grander political aspirations and is positioning himself to be the one that locked the mother of that little radical niglet up. That could be his call to fame. That could be the thing that propels him into a political stratosphere that he would have never been ever been able to reach had not this fallen in his lap. So it's I mean, when you're talking about these matters, and I'm projecting, because I've never had a conversation with the brother, but that could be one of the angles. That by ingratiating himself to white America, to the system, by prosecuting Deja, he gets a bounty of political currency that he's going to use for his own particular benefit.
That's right. That is right. I'll tell you, boy. You know, Doc, you said, you talked about humanity. You talked about humanity. And, you know, America has a lack of humanity. America just does. It's America could be, quote unquote, heaven on earth. It really could be. It could be possible. But with the lack of humanity, America will always be hell on earth, especially for us. It makes the understanding of Minister Farrakhan's song, the
white man's heaven is the Black man's hell. I was just thinking about that. That's why I started laughing. Yeah, and there's something, you know, I think that we might want to do an update of that and say, you know, a rich white man's heaven is everybody that ain't rich and white's hell, because you know, when you really think about it, I think about, you know, I hear, I'm not gonna say I'm hearing voices or whatever, but I often, you know, reflect upon some of the most amazing quotes. And this whole thing, this moment right here, it reminds me of something that my brother Tupac Amaru Shakur said. He said, you know, the thing is that we living in hell. We're just afraid to admit it. You know, a realm, you know, and especially when you're talking about a nation, let's be very clear on this. There doesn't have to be homelessness in America. There doesn't have to be poverty here. But people choose to make that happen. It's a willful, conscious decision that you will not eat. And as damning as that sounds, it's the truth. Okay? And it's one of the things that for us as Black people, if we're going to be really truthful about it, we as a people, as all other populations of people, but I believe our fuse is even shorter, we tire of helping our own. Because we're struggling going up, you know, as James Cleveland put it, the rough side of the mountain ourselves. You know, and in our fervent desire to make it, we are in many ways assimilating in values and perspective and worldview and you know, and our priorities and what we consider to be important, we have become the very monsters that we know should be defied. Look at the brother, you know, prosecuting Deja. He's white-minded. You know, he has every ability to say no. Just as those white prosecutors said no in regards to prosecuting the parents of individuals who have killed hundreds of people, went up into a church and shot up a praise house. And you trying to tell me he the only one responsible for that? It's just different rules and a different application of the law. I mean, who's the Alex Jones? You know, he just lied. And then people say, oh no, you don't lie on white folk. It's the world we live in, brother.
Exactly. Brother James says prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah.
And,
that's what it is.
That's actual facts.
I mean,
actual facts.
We're in a situation right now in the state of Texas. The guy who shot the White Lives Matter protester. Dude wasn't, you know, he wasn't in his, you know, he had approached the car and apparently had his gun laying across from him. That white dude in that car who intentionally drove his car into that protest, shot him from inside the car and killed him. And our illustrious governor, Greg Abbott, the trial ain't even occurred yet. He said if they can convict him, I'm gonna free him. Now that's not prosecutorial discretion. Shit, that's a governor who is gonna do and don't give a damn what you think. Let me tell you what I'm gonna do. You know, and one of the things that makes me laugh is quite simply if Dave Chappelle was still doing his show, that would be, you know, rife for a skit, you know, and they wouldn't understand it if it was in whiteface. But if, you know, if it was in blackface, that here you got a black governor, a black president who going through the hoods and see somebody get pulled over for whatever, and he just throw them apart and through the window, because that's what they doing. Because he knows that regardless of what he does, he's gonna be reelected. And that's what political solidarity can get you. Look at what Trump is going through. He is being charged and his ratings went up. Come on, the world we live in.
Exactly. Brother James' comment says, we've never vested ourselves in life, only survival. Part of reparations, which we won't receive, the first step should be rest.
Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, you know, the reparations thing, hey, my best friend, he said, man, that's embarrassing. I don't want mine. Well, I told him, I said, in the event that it comes through and you embarrassed to spend yours, look, bro, hit me off. I'll take your portion. Okay. But one of the clearest signs, you know, I'm not gonna say I look for these signs from popular culture or from God as to what's going to happen. However, when I heard that Detroit had a committee to study the doling out of reparations, I knew it was a sham. Didn't Detroit go broke recently? And you trying to tell me that Detroit gonna come up with the money to pay black folk? That's not gonna happen. You know, but in the event that it does, y'all, and your black pride won't allow you to accept, send it this way.
Brother James says he's in Detroit. So, Brother James, if you could respond really quick, How is that reparations thing going in
Tell him
Detroit?
he better be quiet about it. Ain't gonna happen. He better get on the possible team, because they be held this check up. What you talking about? We wasn't gonna do this, brother.
That is something. You know, and moving forward and understanding the lay of the land. You know, Doc, if the white pastor and his nigger sycophant was ever watching, you know, in your closing remarks, you know, what would you tell them? What would your piece of advice be to them?
My piece of advice to them in particular would be the following: that if you do what you always did, you're gonna get what you always got. And we've heard that message before from both of them. This idea, this feel good, this sing song, which is really, you know, the old gospel song of "There's a balm in Gilead." That's a balm that is put on the hearts and the minds to offer some form of a dissolution of not only historical past wrongs, but the continuation and perpetuation of them to this very moment. It's not going to achieve anything beyond some people being able to pat you on the back. You know, racism, this racism problem is a structural one. It is compounded by the fact that within a capitalist society, if you ain't got no money, you shall live and die horribly. So you have those two factors, race and money, working together, and often they intersect. But what you're doing by just getting up there and giving a speech, anybody can give a speech. If you have an organization that is of that size, create something that is determined to make your existence irrelevant, so that people are not hurting so much that they need to run to you to get a sing-song solution, a reprieve, so to speak, from their pain, their misery, and their suffering. And I yield with that, brother.
Awesome, Doc. And Brother James says that I was in Flint, Michigan yesterday. As Doc said, across the board, the people have no awareness, and this is generational in all aspects of life. You know, it's something else. Doc, and more in your closing comments, could you speak to that point that Brother James said about it being generational, that there's no awareness in all aspects of life? What would you tell them?
What would I tell those who are under what people would call a generational curse?
Mm-hmm.
Try to create space for yourself by any means necessary. And by space for yourself, I mean, come up with a way that your back is not so pressed up against the wall that you don't have time to think. That you're in many ways a modern day Bigger Thomas. You're not thinking, you're simply reacting to what is happening to you. We have to sometimes, especially being economically marginalized, I get it that for our children, we're not able to take them to Disney World or Disneyland. We may not even be able to take them to the world's greatest amusement park. And I know Brother James, being in Detroit, will probably agree with me on this, Cedar Point. However, we have to busy ourselves creating room, even if it's a staycation, that for a weekend, you and your children, you stay in and you have a read in, you have a learn in, and you look for opportunities to break that curse. You know, I'm first generation college, and my parents looked for a way for me to be able to sort of exit having to be paycheck to paycheck. I didn't realize that As long as my people was paycheck to paycheck, I'd be paycheck to paycheck. Anything extra they gonna ask for and demand. That wasn't part of the deal, I thought. However, that's the reality of being Black in America, the idea of collectivism within the family. But create room and create space for yourself and look for venues such as this one that you can passively just sit and learn and listen. Go down to the library. And we're not asking you to be a Rhodes Scholar, but what we are imploring you to be able to do is to be able to navigate your life so that the next generation coming up after you, and by that next generation, I mean your children, are not doomed to a ineffective lifestyle that, you know, will in many ways lead one to believe in generational curses. And it's not a generational curse. It's just that generation after generation, we continue to eat the same things. We continue to live the same lifestyle. We continue to have the same forms of entertainment and titillation, just repackaged and sent out for us. You don't have to make that central to your life. That doesn't have to be your intellectual diet. You know, go out and wander, go get lost, you know, go to a park, go hiking, take your children hiking, and just talk, spend time together. And the truth of the matter is that we have to up our awareness. And one of the things, and I'll take the initiative and speak for Brother James Muhammad, Brother Maurice Muhammad, and myself, and the vast majority of brothers that I know. There aren't many things that we want more than for our people to come up and engage us, so that we can talk to you, so that you can talk to us, so that you can hear our story and understand our story. You know, I have 5 degrees. I'm first generation college. I just stayed in school a long time. But a part of that was general fear of ending up like some people in my family ended up, prematurely dead from drug overdoses, alcoholism, a whole host of things have come together to sort of forge me together. And the final thing I'll say is don't forget our way. I would not be here, literally alive, if I didn't have a praying mother praying for me from even the other side. And the Lord knew I was a special case. He gave me 3 grandmothers to go ahead and cover this child as he stumbled and bumbled his way through life. Pray for your children and find your village, find your community, find individuals who may not be like-minded with you, but who are in every way traveling in the direction or have arrived at a destination that you desire to go to. If you're the smartest person in your group, you need to find a new tribe, a new group to be with. And I yield.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Doc. And so that was excellent closing comments. And so, you know, my little 2-piece, my closing comments, I heard that I was doing some reading and that pastor talked about Jesus being a Middle Eastern man. And I was like, man, first of all, you lying bastard. He wasn't a Middle Eastern man because the Middle Eastern term wasn't even created back then. They didn't call themselves Middle Eastern. That's a made-up term.
Yeah, you know what cracks me up when people say that. I'm always reverted back to that great speech that Brother Khaled gave, Khaled, where he said, okay, there's a Middle East. Tell me where the Middle West at. Where the Middle North, the Middle South. He said, hey, what's the middle? You know, totally made up by him. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you know, so to lie and say that Jesus was Middle Eastern because you don't want to admit that Jesus is a black man. You don't want to admit that. You have a problem admitting that. And so that leads us to understand and know that you don't really like black people. You don't really want to help black people. You don't really want to serve black people. You want to serve yourself. You want to do for yourself at our expense. So there should not be any black people sitting under a white pastor who refuse to be honest with you and embrace Jesus as the black Messiah. That he's a black man 100% and ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We have to be able to get to the point where we understand black first, period. And we have to get to the point where we understand that it's going to be our way or it's no way, period, point blank. All of this trying to get along with this and get along with that when this and that don't give a damn about you, and it damn sure don't give a damn about your children. And if they had a choice to see which child is going to be over who, they're going to want their child over your child. They ain't no, well, we could break the candy bar in half and you get half and you get half. They want your child to serve their child. That's why they don't want real American history to be taught, so that the sins of the father will be known. And then they will become aware, oh, you owe responsibility. They want to keep their crime and hide their hand at the same time. And there's no way to do that, because you got to be able to know the truth, and the truth got to be able to come out. And you can't be trying to hide the truth. We ain't trying to hide nothing. We're going to expose the truth so you'll have the ability to decide. Because this is on your desk. This is at your front door. So better make sure you make the right decision, because you won't be able to say, I didn't know. See, because the judgment of God is going to be, did you know? And how did you respond? You can't look and say, well, I didn't know. Because God can say, did not my reminder come to you? Did not my reminder come to you, warning you? You did know, but you failed to respond. And you will be held guilty. So as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm gonna kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Thank you for watching. And we had with us Brother Michael J. Muhammad, Brother Emil, Shalane, Brother Carlton, Amari, Brother Confidence, Brother James Muhammad, Amini Mitchell, Randy Deb Muhammad, Brother Isaiah Israel. We thank you all from Facebook for watching, and those who I didn't mention, I didn't write your name down before it went away, but we thank you for joining us each and every Wednesday, and we will see y'all again next Wednesday.
Don't on it.
All right.